going live on YouTube. All right, good afternoon. I am Jessica Carroll, the Interim Program Manager for Measure 110, and I will be assisting Keisha Dumas with facilitation for today's meeting. The Oversight and Accountability Council welcomes and encourages community input. Members of the public are invited to submit public comments or get on our interested parties email list by emailing oha.measure110@odhsoha.oregon.gov. That email address and more information about the council can be found on the Measure 110 OAC website. For more information or support with community engagement, please contact me, Jessica Carroll. Somebody will drop my email in the chat. OAC members have asked that OHA and other staff who are present in the meeting space, please introduce themselves in the chat. Share your role with the agency, and if you are a subject matter expert, your area of expertise. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Keisha to kick us off and maybe call for roll.
All right, welcome everybody to today's meeting. I'm gonna pass it over to Sydney so she can take roll, and then I will talk about the agenda.
Thanks, Keisha. Hello, everybody. Just a reminder, if when I call your name, please say here for the record. We appreciate it. Amy?
Here.
Hi, Amy. Blue?
Here.
Hi, Blue. Carlos?
Here.
Hi, Carlos. Caroline, I don't believe is going to make it today. Dharma?
Here.
Hi, Dharma. Henry?
Here.
Hello, Henry. Hubert? Hey, Hubert, I see you over there. Jackie. Don't see Jackie yet. Keisha?
I think I'm here. No, I'm here.
Hi, Keisha. Thank you. Leticia?
Here.
Hi, Leticia. Melinda?
Here.
Hi, Melinda. Morgan?
Hello. Here.
Hi, Morgan. Onisha?
Here.
Hi, Onisha. Ron?
Ron's here.
Hi, Ron. Sabrina? Don't think is going to make it today. Zeb?
I'm here. Thank
Hi,
you.
Zeb. And Tori? Did Tori join us? Don't see Tori yet. And Bessie?
Here.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Bessie. All right, we're at 15 currently. Back to you, Keisha.
All right, so real quick, we're gonna first thing is the budget allocation. I might have to turn that back to Jessica to brief us on that one. And we have our tri-chair elections today and vote and OHA updates. So I will turn it back over to Jessica to brief us on our first vote around funding.
All right, thank you, Keisha. And I am going to pass it to John Collins, who's going to be doing that presentation for us today. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone. Carly, are you able to pull those slides up? Thank you. Hi, everyone. So what I'm going to go over with you is suggested or recommended, I guess, for lack of a better word, from staff, way to begin the allocation process for the extension of the 18-month extension that y'all all agreed to some months back for the burns. I'm going to go over with you the methodology with it, associated with it, roughly how much money is associated with it, and then we have a proposed motion that one of the council members could utilize, or they could do something else if they decide to. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Could you go to the next slide, please? So just to kind of remind everyone of where things currently stand. Right now we have, with all the burn partners, 18-month agreements in place that run through December of this year. And as I mentioned earlier, we had talked about and the council had agreed that we would do extensions on all of those grant agreements with some qualifiers on that. And we've been working in the background. Staff has been working on developing what the template's going to look like associated with that, and looking at the current compliance of all of our all the burn partners. And that information is going to be shared with you too. I think the next meeting we're actually going to go over the contract template. But one of the things that we needed to be able to do in order to move forward with those extensions is come to an agreement with y'all about how we would basically divvy up the money that we have for the next 18 months, basically from January of 2024 through June of 2025. So for this current set of agreements, the 18-month agreements, y'all will remember that we distributed $265 million to the various burn partners, and we utilized the formula that allocated money at a certain level to each of the given counties, and then the burns within those counties basically divvied up those dollars with a kind of laborious negotiation process. For this 18-month extension, as we've also talked about with y'all in the past, the caseload projections are showing a lower amount of revenue, and we will only have $191 million to distribute. So by necessity, math, there's going to be less money to divide up amongst the various partners. So what we're trying to do is propose to you a methodology for how that's done, and also how we can make it as, for lack of a better word, painless as possible. Basically quick and painless in terms of trying to get it done compared to the last process that we utilized. So can we, and then the goal beyond the extension that we're doing, which will be probably a whole nother solicitation process for starting in July of 2025. We are just now getting started on trying to pull information together to present to the council to help with some of the decision-making processes for that. All right, next slide. So this goes over some of the revenue changes that I was just talking about. And this is because we want to make sure that you guys have a good baseline in terms of helping with the decision-making here. So again, for the first 18 months, it was $365 million for the burns. And then there was also an additional 4% from the total dollars available that was set aside for the tribal entities, and that was distributed to all the tribes, and all the burns are funded now. Out of that $265 million, roughly 77% of it went towards services. The other 23% went towards one-time expenses. Those one-time expenses range from purchases of property, buildings, remodeling, purchases of cars, and things such as that. But they are all things that were meant to be just one-time expenses and not ongoing services. So for this next 18 months, as I mentioned earlier, we have $191 million. There will again be a 4% set aside for the tribal entities. So based on the way the money was distributed for the current 18 months, where 77% of it went towards services and 23% of it went towards one-time expenses, we're recommending that we look at that same kind of distribution and look at the 77, and look at least initially, specifically the 77% that went towards services. If you can click over to and that's roughly 147 million based on the total that we have available. What we're proposing is that we take that 147 million, or 77% of the dollars we have available, and basically allocate it by county using the same formula that we used for the first 18 months. And here's a reminder of that formula. It was basically a combination of the population of the county and then some weighting associated with the Medicaid population, the houselessness count, the number of arrests and drug overdose deaths in that county. Once we allocated by county, what we would end up doing is funding each of the various partners within the burns based off of their share of the services budget within that county. So if, for example, I'm making this up, I don't know if it's at all accurate, say Umatilla County, and they have one burn there, and they had 3 entities that made up that burn. Entity 1 got 50% of the service dollars, and the other 2 entities each got 25% of the service dollars, making 100%. What we would do is we would distribute the dollars amongst those entities using that same proportion. All the remaining funds that we talked about earlier that had previously been one-time expenses, so that 23% of the share of the total $191 million, we're wanting to put that on hold, set it aside, and work with the council in subsequent meetings, hopefully the next couple of meetings, so that we can make a decision fairly quickly about exactly how that would be distributed. And that would represent roughly about $44 million. Down at the very bottom of this slide, you can see the exact amounts that we're talking about. Go on to the next slide, please. Basically, if we move things forward, or if the council decides to move things forward this way, it would streamline the grant extension process. And what it would allow us to do is basically set up the extensions without any need for negotiation amongst the various burns and their partners, and go ahead and issue out the amendments to the current grant agreements with a dollar amount that was purely decided by formula. We could do that as early as the beginning of next month, and possibly have signed and executed extensions shortly after that, within the next few weeks or so. This would allow them to basically maintain operations that they had in place around the services that they had originally proposed to do. And it would distribute the funding reductions that everybody's going to have to deal with because of the lower forecast in a balanced way. And then it would also give you as a council an opportunity to thoroughly discuss how the remaining funds would be distributed, the roughly $44 million that had previously gone towards one-time expenses. Next slide. And this is just a graphic, illustration of how the timeline would go if the council decides that this is the right way to proceed. Today, we're talking about the funding methodology. The next meeting on February 22nd, we would talk about the extension template that DOJ has already worked on for us. I forgot to add it in here, but we would also talk about the other $44 million, the remaining money, then how we'd want to distribute that. And then what we'd be able to do in early March is send out a letter of intent around the amendments and send the actual amendments out to the various partners for them to hopefully review and sign and get back to us over the next few weeks. So we would have basically the extension itself wrapped up, hopefully by early May, if everything went smoothly. Next slide, please. Okay, and then this is the recommended motion, which would be to accept the methodology that I just went over. But before y'all consider that though, I just downloaded a lot of information on you with some details. And I'm guessing some of y'all might have some questions. Yes, Zeb.
Hi, can you put up the first slide again?
But I'm sorry, Keisha, I should have let you call on Zeb. Sorry about that.
All right. Okay, so the first, so the 265 million
Mhm.
is what we dispersed out the first go around. Is that correct?
Correct.
Including the one-time cost.
Right, and that included, right.
Okay, and so now you're saying like, so 191 million went out to services. All right. So I just, my question is like, is the budget for the money available shrunk overall? Like the tax revenue, is that going
Yeah,
to shrink?
yeah, let me go over that again just to make sure it is super clear, because that's a really important point. So yes, for this first 18 months, the current agreements that's in place, we had $265 million to distribute. Of that $265 million, roughly 77% of it went towards services of one kind or another, and the remaining 23% went towards one-time expenses. So for this next 18 months, basically the extension that we're working on, we have only $191 million to distribute. And what we're proposing is looking at it from a proportional point of view and saying that, okay, of that 191 million, let's look at 77% of it and distribute that piece in a fairly straightforward formula using the kinds of stuff that we used previously and the budgets that the grantees had basically had previously, and proportionally distributing the dollars back out to them. And that would leave roughly $44 million that, from a proportion point of view, had previously been spent on one-time expenses for y'all to discuss and consider a little bit more in terms of how you want to get that out to the community. And there are, I don't know that we want to spend a lot of time on the various options, but we can certainly bring forward next meeting a number of different options that you can consider, and y'all are welcome to bring forward options as well. Does that, the additional detail help, or did I go into too much detail?
Yeah, I guess I just want to know if that 191 that we're saying is available right now, that's a number that we've set. I mean, potentially that number could be higher.
Well, based on the forecast, the economic forecast that the Department of Administrative Services has for us at this point in time, they're estimating that there will be $191 million available for that 18-month extension. I think there is a forecast due maybe in another month or so, and it may change a little bit, could go up a little bit, could go down a little bit, all depending on what kind of the revenue that's being generated on the taxes for cannabis sales.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, it looks like we have Ron, Blue, and then Hubert.
All right, thank you, Keisha. Thank you, John, for this presentation. My question, it might be a little bit in the weed, but my understanding of the $44 million one-time cost in the first go around was that money had was set aside as $44 million for one-time cost because of how it was received and when it was received.
No, not quite. And just to be clear, it's what I did. What we did is we looked at the budget that everybody ended up submitting to us for the $265 million that was distributed, and 23% of that, 23% of the budget from the various partners within the burns went towards one-time expenses. So from a proportion point of view, that translates to $44 million for out of the 191. So there was actually more money spent on one time, or there will be, since we're in the middle of it right now, more money than that spent on one-time expenses during this first 18 months. I think what you might be referencing is that there was some carryover
Right.
of dollars, and That's still true, and there'll be carryover of dollars into the next biennium as well, but that's all kind of mashed up into these numbers that we're presenting to you. So I'm not going over that piece of it in
Right, yeah,
detail,
yeah.
but it ends up translating into the total dollar amounts that I'm giving you in terms of availability.
Right, that's why I was testing my recollection, was because I was under the impression that the reason why that 44 million was for one-time cost was because it was set
No,
aside from the previous period. Because
yeah, no, it was just, well, we did encourage people to, the way we funded it in the background is for those one-time expenses. We took carryover dollars from the previous biennium and spent that on that. But
right,
from
that's what I'm referring to.
from a practical point of view, though, that doesn't have an impact on us going forward.
Did you get your question answered, Ron? Or you still got more?
No, well, I mean, it's kind of in both orbits. One is that there was carryover, and carryover was dedicated to one-time costs, and there were also additional funds apparently that were dedicated to one-time costs. And so what I'm driving at, just in terms of looking and going forward, in terms of, you know, allocating 23% to, you know, one-time costs again, while the organizations are getting up and running. They're in the process of delivering services. I'm just starting to wonder the value of such a huge percentage for one-time costs.
Yeah, and I guess, Ron, what you're getting into is part of why we're wanting to set that aside for the decision making today, because the council could consider a number of different options in terms of what to do with those dollars going forward. You could make a decision to wrap them into with additional amendments, wrap them into the agreements that we're hopefully extending here pretty shortly, and then that becomes part of the ongoing cost. It's just that at least initially, it wasn't part of anyone's ongoing service expenses. So we kind of set it aside for a separate discussion so that we could at least get the main part of the agreement extended and, you know, have a good discussion over what to do with the rest of the funds.
Any follow-up, Ron?
No, that's it. I think I've exhausted that line of questioning. Thank you.
I get it. Okay, Blue and then Hubert.
So I thought I had seen 365 million. Was that another was 100 million taken off, or was that a typo? I think it was on one of the early slides.
Oh geez, if it was on one of the early slides, that was definitely a typo. It was 265 million. My bad.
Okay, and then seeing the percentages are adding up to 100, I'm wondering about the costs for OHA staff. Do those come out of a separate pot?
Yeah, those were already taken into account. So the total funds available to out of the drug recovery, I always forget the name of the fund pool, but the total funds, that's already the funding for admin and also the 4% tribal set aside have already been taken into account, and that leaves the 191 million for distribution. Same thing happened on the front side for the 265 billion. That didn't include the admin that was set aside and the money that was set aside for the tribal. So there's actually more money available than just that.
Okay, that's and then I know that I had heard about a 3% increase to account for inflation. I'm just wondering if that was in those, oh, I forgot what 191 minus 44 is, but if whatever that amount is that 3% included in the just funding those burn partners again? I want to say refunding, but that sounds wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, in one of our earlier presentations, before we kind of settled on this, and it's still there, I just didn't present it to you. What we're trying to do is once the funding is distributed amongst the various partners. Whatever that amount is, we add 3% to it to account for inflation, and it also decreases the amount of cut that they're getting. But that's kind of boiled into and baked into the 147, I'm sorry, million that we'd be distributing for that extension. So that's kind of baked into that process.
Okay, so it wouldn't need to come out of that 44 million.
No.
Just so I'm, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Were you done, Blue?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, Hubert, you're up.
Hubert, we can't hear you. Hubert, we still can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I had to put I thought my computer had a device that it didn't have. So anyway, without the headphones. So I like this formula, right? Because I kind of figured that the first time we sent out money, we had a lot of first time monies that needed to be spent to get people started up. So now, going forward, we can continue to fund the burns that are in more rapidly than we did in the beginning. And I don't see where there's a problem with getting burns funded more rapidly because, we had a lot of, press about we were moving too slow, right? And I think that since we're not in the red right now, we're kind of like, we got money we can give to the burns, and we also have money that we can set aside that we can all, as a council, come to and say, hey, we could put some of this money over here if there's shortage, right? So I think that we should take this motion, and I think that we should keep it simple and get the money out and continue to do so, because it's going to be fluctuations anyway, because this is tax dollars. Sometimes we might get more tax dollars, sometimes we might get less. Then we also got entities that's trying to take money, right? So it's going to be an ongoing budget management by the council to be able to make sure that the burns get the funds that they need. But I don't see why we should kind of stop this process. I think we should continue going forward and then make little tweaks and amendments as we go forward. So I just want to think we should just go ahead and take this motion and move forward.
Thank you, Hubert. You finished?
I want to second his motion. Did he make a motion? I'll second it.
Nah, not really.
Okay, I'm making a motion to accept it. Let's accept this motion. I will make the motion. If it's
Then I accept it. All right, I second it.
So let's, Keisha,
So, well, we have a motion on the table and second. But Ron's hand was up, and I don't think I can go back if somebody makes a motion. So
we have a
You have
motion and a
something, Ron?
second, so we would be theoretically in discussion, Keisha?
yep.
Right, no, I was gonna agree with Hubert that, yeah, I think moving this extension process forward is the best course. I think it's the right thing to do. Getting too much into the weeds right now when we want to move these extensions forward, I think is, we can mess with that other stuff later on. So that was all I was gonna say, was that I agree with Hubert. We need to move this process forward to get the amendments agreed to and get those burns that extension money.
Thank you, Ron. And Blue?
Yeah, I just have a concern, which I have voiced before and have not heard back from OHA, in that there are 2 burns in Multnomah County that are not complete burns according to the Chapter 944 rules. So I'm concerned about just funding the exact same services, because in the Chapter 944 rules, it states burns must provide housing options that serve populations at all points on the substance use continuum. It doesn't say counties, it says burns. And there are 2 burns that do not do that. So I'm concerned about leaving everything as is and just sending more funds to those burns. And I'm not saying that the organizations that do provide housing need to do anything different. I am saying, according to our rules, we either need to add in another housing provider or combine burns so that people across the spectrum in each burn are served. So I don't know if OHA has any updates on that, but I'm just concerned that OHA is not following rules when creating these burns.
So I'm just wondering, as the motion is now, and we still have 23% to decide where that goes to, and if that can be in the weeds, and that other 23% of funding, I'm not sure, but John,
That's true. Yeah, that 23%, as I mentioned earlier, could be used for a lot of different things, including amendments or changes to some of the burns. Like if there's somebody who's not quite fulfilling those requirements, some of that 23% could go towards funding somebody that would, or increasing the funding to allow one of the current ones to do that in a subsequent amendment.
thank you. Dharma?
I just wanted to get it on the record that I think that, or now to get it on folks' radar rather, that the extra funding, that discretionary pool or whatever that's going to be left over, that we should look into doing the research that we need to justify racially specific spending for Black and Indigenous communities, especially. When we first talked about the ability for us to fund those, when we had our conversation with DOJ, I think that there was a missed opportunity for us to spend some funds on the research that we need to justify, like Black specific programs, for instance, without, violating the laws here. But I think there's an opportunity for us to spend some of that research to actually impact the communities most impacted by the war on drugs. And it requires us to do some research. So I think we should use some of that discretionary funding on that, or on the technical support needed to get more community-based organizations and organizations that can specifically work with communities of color and other multiply marginalized communities to better serve those populations. So I just wanted to get that out there for folks to consider as we're making these decisions in the next few weeks.
Thank you for that, Dharma. And be sure to bring it back up when we go over what we're going to spend that other money on. Any more discussion around the motion? And second, sorry, I can't see. Zeb has his hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to say I support this motion moving forward. I think it's important to get these monies allotted in it to be going out to the providers. And there are lots of threats against these funds happening as we speak. So it'd be nice to get this money planned to get out there. So I agree with this motion.
Thank you. Ron, did you have something else?
Yeah, I'm just trying to be sure that, be clear about the budget allocation methodology, because I think what we're saying we're agreeing to is agreeing to the 77 and 23 split. And that was not, in my mind, something that, it doesn't, that's not explicit in the motion. And I don't think it should be, because, if we're going to do extensions and we're going to be working with providers and burns to get a next round of funding, to put a cap on that doesn't seem to, of 77% of 191 doesn't make sense to me. So this motion in my mind doesn't include the 77-23 split. It's only to get the budget process of amendments happening and negotiations happening.
Well,
And I'll let
Could
John speak.
yeah,
to that.
just thanks, Keisha. Yeah, I'm sorry that wasn't explicitly, but that is part of the emotion. And maybe we could, if y'all decide to move forward on it, we can put that language into the piece that Sydney typed over in the chat. But it was to take 77% of the 191 million and distribute it, and then the remaining 23 for y'all to have discussions like what Dharma had brought up and some other ideas that some of y'all had brought up. So that was the recommendation that we're bringing forward. And the reason, the part that I wanted to add to that, Ron, and what makes it helpful for us, or in terms of moving things forward, and I guess helpful for y'all on the council, is that it allows us to go ahead and figure out what the amount of dollars would be for each of the grantees and send out the amendments in early March. It basically bypasses any need to do any negotiation for that set of dollars, because it's all decided by formula based off of previous spending, or previous budgets, I should say, since they're still spending those dollars. Does that help, Ron, in terms of making more explicit what we're...
It makes it explicit, but it creates a different set of problems in that we just spent essentially 221 million on services. We have 191 to work with, and we're talking about spending 148 on services. You know, we're basically reducing services by $80 million, and that just doesn't seem equitable to the process that we've established.
Yeah, so, and that is certainly one of the issues that we looked at as we were trying to come up with proposals to present to you. One of the things though that we were faced with, and the reason why we looked at it in terms of expenses that went towards services versus one-time kind of capital expenses, was that in some cases, some of the grantees, when they proposed to us, maybe a large percentage of their budget is actually going towards one-time expenses. And so we weren't sure from a proportion point of view what amount of dollars to give them, other than basing it off of what they had previously spent on services, just to keep it proportionally and fairly distributed. Once you start playing around with how much the entities are getting, some of them could have fairly large increases depending on what proportion of their budget was one-time expenses versus services, and some of them could have could have decreases that could be hard to handle. So we tried to make that distribution. Everybody would be hit because there's a reduction in the amount of dollars, and we just tried to fairly distribute that across everyone, so that some people weren't being hit harder than others.
Yeah, my only follow-up would be that it's less likely that there would be this level of one-time costs needed for the next for extensions.
Yeah, which is also why we set aside that remaining 23%, so that the council could consider that a little bit more carefully and address probably some of the concerns that I think you have. And it could be baked into what happens on a more ongoing basis. I'm not trying to sell you on this particular one. I'm just trying to explain to you the logic that we had in terms of presenting this.
Yeah, I'm just saying the more money for providers for services, the better. That's all I'm trying to get to. And
Yeah.
I think we're there.
Zeb's been waiting a
Thank you.
while, so.
Yep,
Oh,
we had to finish up.
sorry. So what is the percentage of reduction in services then? John, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, it's well, the total reduction is 28% from the 265 to 191 million. So that should be distributed the same across all the providers with some variation, but roughly around 28-30% should be the average.
So then, I mean, like, providers out there can kind of take their budget that they need, or that what they had last time, as long the service element of it, and reduce it by 26%.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're just now, and I guess the other thing to note, Zeb and the rest of the council members, is, I mean, we're just now getting ideas about, we're getting the first expense reports from everyone, and we haven't been able to summarize that yet, present it back to you. But it may well be that there are some of the entities that they you know, they're kind of getting things going. So some of the money, they're not spending, they might not be spending all the money that they're getting right now. And some of, they would be able to carry that into the next 18 months to kind of soften the blow of the budget reduction that's going to be experienced in the 18-month reduction piece. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Zeb. Margie?
Thank you. I guess I just want to emphasize a few things here in reference to this. I think the fact that we're holding aside this, what is it, 44 million, that we're making a recommendation that we set that aside. One of the reasons we would want to do that is so we would have an opportunity to review more of the reports coming in from the burns in reference to what they've been able to spend and what they've spent it on, and how much carryover they have or where they have gaps. And that would give you opportunities to adjust and figure out what you want to do with that $44 million. The big to do here for me with trying to stick with the formula that we used before is so that we can get documentation and award letters out as soon as possible. And the reason for that, more than anything, is once we send those, we're obligating that money. It is not up to be distributed somewhere else or to some other need. So I just want to, if we have to go in and negotiate a new formula or new numbers with each of these burns, you can imagine that process might take the entire session. So I'm just, I would be in a better place of knowing that these millions that we're talking about here for the burns that we know are providing services, that they can count on a certain amount of money to continue those services. And so just bring that to your attention as you make your decisions and consideration for what's being proposed here. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have Blue, then Onisha, then. Oops. Blue?
Okay, sorry, I didn't know if you were gonna note the other people. So my math isn't great, but it's, if I'm doing the math right, there's about 57 million less dollars available to burns than there was in this past, whatever it's called, funding cycle. Is that about right, John?
Well, there is roughly, it's $71 million less total in terms of what we can distribute. That's taking in, so it's from 265 down to 191.
Okay, I was doing the 77% of 260. Okay, so I guess we are essentially going to have to ask all providers to scale back their costs.
Right.
I mean, even if we added in that set aside, people would still have to scale down, right?
Yeah, well, so here's the funny thing about math. If you, for example, were to distribute, then this is why we're kind of separating this out in terms of one-time expenses. If you were to distribute, say, the full 191 million, say, straight by formula, what would happen is that some of the entities who had maybe spent more on one-time expenses than on services would actually, some of them would actually receive a little bit more money than they had previously for services. And then, you know, we'd have to, the question would be whether or not they're really set up to handle those additional dollars. But some of the others that maybe had all of their money going towards services, they would definitely see a reduction. So does
Okay,
that
and
make sense from?
it,
Okay.
it does. And then I guess, I don't know, maybe this is a rhetorical question, but I'm just concerned that if, I know we had some providers when we were doing burn budget negotiations that dropped out because they said having to reduce their budget, they were unable to provide the services that they had applied for. And so I do have that concern that that could happen again. And I might be just getting a little bit ahead of myself on that. But I don't know that we have a plan for what to do if that happens. And I'm just curious about some of these organizations applied to have 24-hour phone lines that are duplicating the statewide phone line. And is there any possibility that that can be looked at? Because I'm sure staffing a phone line 24 hours a day in each burn is adding cost, and it's also duplicating the statewide phone line. So I don't know if that's something that could be looked at when looking at ways to make this funding stretch and you know, still with, you know, ideally having as little of a reduction in services as possible. But I don't know if that's something that could be looked at before we give out all 100% of the funds.
Yeah, well, again, I think that points to the why we wanted to set some of this aside in reserve to, I think, discuss those types of issues as well. Because that $44 million isn't going to make anyone necessarily whole back up to this first 18 months, but it could be used strategically to do things like what you were just describing, or many of the other options. As y'all are kind of discussing this, you're seeing there's more and more options of what you could potentially do with that $44 million.
Thank you. Did you have more, Blue? Are you done?
Good, thank you.
Okay, Anisha. And then
Thank
Diamond, Ron, and Henry. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm getting my hair done. I just want to say that I agree with a few people that have spoken, and I think we should move ahead with this motion. I think it's the wisest motion that we can do at this point to give people budgets as similar as to what we've given them in the previous fiscal year, minus the real property or the one-time costs, and give them the budget so that they can have those award letters and they know that that money is a given. It's legally a given. They know that they're going to get it. We don't have to worry about struggling legally with any other entity. And then we still have $44 million that we can discuss if these organizations need to increase their budgets, or if any of these organizations are missing out on a burn entity. We have a little bit of wiggle room to figure that out. But I really think that this is the best possible decision for us, making this decision for all of the people that will be impacted by getting these award letters out as soon as possible.
Thank you. Were you done?
Yes.
All right, Dharma, Ron, then Henry.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to really stress how much I would disagree with just blankets using all of these for services. Well, I think that seems like an attractive option. I do think that we need to really prioritize innovating how services are being provided, and without knowing how efficient the services are, not to say that they're poor quality services, right? But to evaluate the services, which is give 100% of the funds just to services, right? So I just wanted to really stress how important it is that we have some reserve left over, and that we should just move this forward.
My final comment is just that just in terms of preserving and protecting these funds from encroachment from other entities. If this is the way to do that, then I'm all for it, because I just don't want the perception out there to be that the council had $191 million and didn't need $44 million to spend on services. And so folks are going to see it as a way of getting at that money, that's available money. And I don't want that to be the case or the perception. If this motion locks this money in and protects it, then I'm for it.
Thank you, Ron. Henry.
Yeah, I really appreciate the discussion, and I would like to, express my agreement with what Ron just said. I also think that listening to, folks in Burns talk about having some, especially in rural areas, that we're standing up some services like providing, funding for peer mentors, and yet, Oregon still lacks and is I think the last in providing overall continuum of care treatment services for substance use disorders. So I'm talking about like having enough beds for detox and residential services. So I think that we could talk about that as a council and definitely use that 44 million for those types of services that are lacking in the state. I don't think anyone can disagree with that there is a lack of those services. I think that, I would also agree to move forward with the motion. I think it's a good idea to get this done and continue to support and fund the services that we are funding. I also think that, I'm not sure when I think about how to keep these things sustainable, some of the services, it seems like we're standing up could also be, so more could be sustained by seeking reimbursement through whether it's Medicaid or Medicare. These things could be, I know CADCs and QMHPs can bill for services. So some of these services that we're standing up could then also seek to bill to make those services more sustainable. So I think it seems to me like we need to protect, the services that we're funding, and also remember that some of these we can seek other ways they can become sustainable on their own. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands. Is that the end of discussion? So I don't know if we need to, is the motion in the chat, Sydney?
Yes, it is.
All right. I'm turning it over to you for a vote.
All
We
right.
might.
Do you want me to read
the
it?
motion? Yeah, please.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the motion in the slides reads it's the motion to adopt the budget allocation methodology as described in this presentation for the 24-25 Measure 110 grant extension process and authorize OHA to begin the amendment negotiation process with burn partners who wish to continue Measure 110 operations. And that was seconded, made by Hubert, seconded by Amy. Amy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Amy. Blue, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Carlos?
Yes.
Thank you, Carlos. Dharma? Oh, wait, did we lose Dharma? Oh, there she is. Let her back in. Quick. I'll come back to Dharma. Henry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thanks, Henry. Hubert?
Yes.
Thanks, Hubert. Did Jackie arrive? I don't think so. No,
Yeah,
Jackie.
Jackie's here.
Yeah, I just jumped on though. I feel uncomfortable voting because I didn't get to hear anything, so I'll have to abstain, but it sounds like you all are in consensus and the next 15 people will disagree with me. Sorry, I'm just playing. But anyway, it sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. I got your abstention down. Keisha?
Yes, and in the chat, Dharma voted
Okay.
yes.
Got that too. Thank you. Leticia?
Yes.
Thanks, Leticia. Melinda?
Yes.
Thank you, Melinda. Morgan?
Yes.
Thank you, Morgan. Nicole voted yes in the chat. Onisha voted yes in the chat. Ron?
Yes.
Thank you, Ron. And Sabrina still not here. Zeb?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. And that passes with 14 yes votes and 1 abstention.
Right on. First order of business done. All right. So now we move to the tri-chair self-nominations and vote. Did you get Nicole's vote, Sydney?
I did. I do see now that it was a direct message, but I will. Nicole, could you put that in the chat, not as a direct message, please?
Does that change the number?
No, I counted her vote when she
Oh,
sent
okay.
it to me. I just didn't realize it wasn't, the chat was moving, so I apologize for that.
All right. Thank you for that, Blue.
Thank you, Nicole.
All right, moving to tri-chair self-nominations and vote. Please raise your hand if you are throwing your hat in the ring to be elected for tri-chair. All right. We have Ron, Onisha, and Dharma.
Maybe we could call for statements for those who want to make statements.
Yeah, I did in that order. Ron, Onisha, and Dharma.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ron, and I'm asking for your vote for tri-chair of the OAC. I've been involved in recovery advocacy for more than 20 years. As folks know that I co-founded the local recovery association project here in Portland. And I was involved with that from 1999 to 2009. I also helped launch the National Recovery Movement in 2001, and I was a co-founder of the national organization Faces and Voices of Recovery and one of the original board members. I've been involved in recovery advocacy, like I said, for over 20 years, and I think that my leadership on the council has resulted in very positive and meaningful gains for our work on implementation. Right now, we're at a critical point in implementation where I believe I could be of great help and influence to particularly the new OHA leadership and new behavioral health director by advancing the principles, values, and goals of the council at a time when there is a lot of interest and attention to Measure 110 and on the council. For those reasons, I ask for your vote as the next tri-chair for the Measure 110 Oversight Accountability.
Thank you for that. Onisha, you're up next.
Hello, you guys. My name is Onisha, and I am asking to be a tri-chair and given the opportunity to support this council. I am very passionate about recovering folks. I am a woman in recovery. I serve with an organization that is a part of a burn. So I get to see it from all angles. I do outreach services every day. I'm in the trenches with my community. I know what it's like to be houseless, to be in active substance use, to struggle with the community and be repulsive to the community because of my appearance and everything that a lot of things that these people that we made this council to serve is going through. And I am committed. I am responsible. I am dependable. I will show up. I will ask the hard questions. I will take direction from other leadership. And I just want an opportunity to serve as tri-chair on this council. And I support everybody on this council, whether we agree sometimes or not. I've always supported people on this council because I believe we all stand together for one cause, and that's to help our communities heal.
Thank you. Dharma, you're up next.
Hi, folks. I'm sorry I'm driving, but I just wanted to really put my name out there because I think that I can bring a fresh perspective to policymaking with regards to Measure 110. I think I have a really unique positionality as a transgender woman of color, as a Muslim woman, a first-generation immigrant, but especially as a harm reductionist and an abolitionist feminist. I think that the perspectives that I can bring in are not just from my lived experience as a person in recovery, as a person who's engaged in sex work and other behaviors that are like peripheral to the things that we're trying to fund here. I think also I bring in a lot of understandings of health policy from an innovative perspective. As a graduate student whose research focuses on health policy and specifically how the war on drugs and drug policies here are impacting those most impacted by the war on drugs, I think that it can bring a really important perspective. I also know from my lived experience and from talking to transgender people every day here in Oregon that we are still consistently denied medical services in the recovery field every single day. And the paucity of focus on transgender folks, gender diverse people, especially trans women of color and Black trans people, is causing us to lose our lives. But, you know, we're currently looking at a situation here in the state of Oregon where we're considering legislation that's literally going to take away our rights. And I think it's really important that we help to subvert that impact, right? Which is going to lead to more substance use, but then also the reality that transgender people experience, especially transgender people of color, experience higher rates of substance use disorder or substance use disharmony compared to our peers. One of the most discriminated against communities here in the state of Oregon, especially trans people of color. But regardless of that, I think that I can bring in some really innovative perspectives that haven't been considered yet, right? I think that we passed Measure 110 so that we could do things differently than the way that they were always done. I really railed against some of the really fast, rapid paced decision making that we've been forced into by OHA and by the timelines that are kind of pushed on us. But I think that this is an opportunity for us to change how things have been done and to really make a change for communities that is going to be long lasting and actually sustainable. And I think that we really need to divest towards some of these punitive and kinds of different models. But I think that really my educational experience, I've worked nationally with the Association of Recovery and Higher Ed. I've worked with various groups like Faces and Voices of Recovery. And I think that my voice as a young person in recovery can really help us to establish some change so we can catch people's substance use before it becomes a permanent problem, before they develop a substance use disorder. And we can really meet people where they're at, regardless of whether or not they fall in that normative kind of model of recovery. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to self-nominate? And is there any questions for any of these candidates? All right, I'm not seeing any. Okay, Blue.
So I don't have a question, but I just want to say that right now I am really struggling to figure out how to vote because I think all of you would be great as tri-chairs. So I don't know, I just want to say that, and I'm so grateful that there are folks that are they're willing to be tri-chairs. Yeah, I'm just really struggling right now. But thank you all for your statements. That was also very helpful.
So, I'm a little stuck on how the voting process should go.
I have you. Oh, Jackie? How's your
Yeah,
hand?
just a really quick question. Again, I apologize for being late. Is there less than 3 positions open then?
It's 2.
2 open, I see. Okay, thank you.
So, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Does somebody else have something?
It's like Dharma.
There's just one position available right now, right? Not 2.
2. It's 2 positions.
Which positions are open? I thought this was just to replace the one position.
But 2 people are timing out. I'm timing out. I'm leaving my tri-chair position, and Blue's leaving her tri-chair position. There's 2 open tri-chair positions.
What's the service timeline on those positions?
1 year.
They're 1 year? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So if you're cool, Keisha, we are going to vote on each seat. So we're going to vote on the first seat and then the second seat. The person who is elected to the first seat will not be eligible for the second vote, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to vote between 3 people on the first seat. We're going to call your name. You're going to tell us who you vote for, right? And then the second vote, that person who is elected to that first seat will not be eligible for the second seat. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I was hoping so. I was seeing some faces.
It goes from 3 candidates to 2 candidates.
Exactly. Unless somebody wants to hold 2 seats, I don't know about that. And it looks like maybe Henry has his hand up.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time we did this. Did we have the candidates in the room while we were voting, or did we ask them to leave the room? I can't remember.
In the room.
Okay,
And they get to vote too.
nice.
All right, are we ready to go with seat number 1?
Yep.
Okay.
You ready, Sydney?
Yeah, are you ready, Jessica? Just kidding. All right, seat 1, when I call your name, please tell me the name of the person you are voting for. Amy.
Onisha.
Thank you, Amy. Blue.
Dharma.
Thank you, Blue. Carlos.
I would say with Dharma, just because Lynn, that area needs focus, if that makes any sense. But I agree with that everyone is a great candidates. So I don't like voting like this. It feels weird.
Thank you, Carlos. I understand. All right, Dharma, who do you vote for?
I vote for myself.
Thank you, Dharma. Henry?
I too appreciate everyone's willingness to serve as a tri-chair. I'm going to vote for Onisha.
Thank you, Henry. Hubert? Uh-oh, did we lose Hubert? And it looks like we lost Hubert. Sorry about that. Jackie?
I agree that it's a little odd. I don't know about how we're doing this exactly because, you know, anyway, I vote for Onisha. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Keisha?
Onisha.
Thank you, Keisha. Leticia?
I vote for Ron.
Thank you, Leticia. Melinda?
I vote for Ron.
Thank you, Melinda. Morgan?
Onisha.
Thank you, Morgan. Nicole?
Dharma.
Thank you, Nicole. Onisha?
I vote for myself.
Thank you, Onisha. Ron?
Let's see. I vote for myself.
Thank you, Ron. And Zeb?
All great candidates. Onisha.
Thank you, Zeb. I just fix my spreadsheet here.
Can I just make a statement? It looks like Hubert's trying to get back in, but can't get back in. So 1 second. Yeah, I don't see him in the waiting room.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
I'm back.
Hi, Hubert. But we're just,
Hello.
were you able to hear everyone's statements? Are you comfortable?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Are you comfortable making a vote?
I am.
All right, who do you vote for?
Onisha.
Thanks so much, Hubert. All right, so we have the most votes for this chair were for Onisha. Second place was Dharma, and third was Ron.
Ooh, congratulations. The first
All right.
chair goes to
Congratulations.
Onisha.
All right.
And I see Blue's question in the chat. We do still have 15 here, and there were 8 votes for Onisha. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
I counted 9, but maybe I'm off.
Congratulations, Onisha.
Thank
Congratulations.
you, guys. Thank you so much.
And back to Jessica for this, our city. I got a little boggled. I don't know who's running the vote for the second vote.
That would be Cindy. So Onisha is no longer on the table because she already occupies the seat. So now it's Ron and Dharma who are up for the second seat.
All right, second seat. Amy, who do you vote for?
Dharma.
Thank you, Amy. Blue?
Dharma.
Thank you, Blue. Carlos?
Dharma.
Thank you, Carlos. Dharma?
I vote for myself.
Thanks, Dharma. Henry?
Dharma.
Thanks, Henry. Hubert?
Dharma.
Thank you, Hubert. Jackie?
Ron.
Thank you, Jackie. Keisha?
Dharma.
Thank you, Keisha. Leticia?
Ron.
Thank you, Leticia. Melinda? Melinda, are you still there?
Yes, I'm just having a difficult time getting off of mute.
Oh,
I
sorry.
vote for Ron.
Thank you. Thanks, Melinda. Morgan?
Ron.
Thanks, Morgan. Nicole voted for Dharma in the chat, and it is to everyone this time. Onisha?
Dharma.
Thank you, Onisha. Ron?
Ron.
Thank you, Ron. And Zeb?
Ron.
Thank you, Zeb. And let me just get my Sorry, normally my spreadsheet tallies yes, no, and abstentions, so I have to change it a little bit. We do still have 15. We have 6 for Ron and 9 for Dharma.
Congratulations, Dharma.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So welcome to a lengthy, hefty ride of meetings and presentations and no, congratulations, everyone. And I think it's the OHA updates, and then we might get out early.
Right, thank you. Thanks everyone. It was a great conversation earlier. And sorry, one second. So it was a great conversation earlier, great vote. Congratulations to the new tri-chairs. I would just like to say it is a heavy lift. We will be sending you out some links, calendar invites. You can start joining those meetings immediately if you'd like, and that way you can get a feel for what it is before you formally take your seats. So that is that should be fun. Looking forward to seeing you on Friday, maybe. I want to make an announcement. My first announcement is about the equipment that y'all were issued. Again, so we did ask that everybody, once they got their equipment set up, and I know some people are still waiting for their equipment. We are dealing with that through the business office. We're working on that. I just want to call out that some people said that they were exclusively using their state email and are still not using their state email. They're still emailing us from their personal emails. And so if we could just let us know when you're ready to use your state email, that would be great. And we will use that exclusively. And I see that we have a hand. Would you like to call on the hands? Keisha, would you like me?
Amy, go ahead.
Look, I'm just saying, this is why I'm on this council meetings, because I have a lot of brain damage from all the crap I did for 27 years, and I forgot all my stuff for my email. So I need technical assistance.
Okay, and I just want to let you know, if you do need that technical assistance, like, let us know. We will call, we'll do a 3-way call with the business office, or with, not the business office, but the tech assistance folks. We'll support you as much as possible. And Amy, don't get down on yourself so much. You're pretty amazing. So
thanks.
Yeah, Amy, I need the same thing. I think I need an in-person sit down for tech.
All right.
Carlos, you're up next.
So I wanted to mention also, there was a problem with my email, the state of the email that was issued to me, and my last name, there was a glitch in it. No, they misspelled my name. And so I received, I think it was the message last week about getting that fixed. And then by now I forgot everything I'm supposed to do to like log into it. Yeah, I need help.
Okay, I hear you.
My attention is whatever's on my calendar.
I understand. I am much the same way, Carlos. So what I'm going to do is we're taking these names down of folks that need help. Nicole, I see you in the chat. I think most of the folks who are asking for a sit down right now are in the Portland area. I am also in the Portland area. So I'm happy to meet you at a state building, and we can set up some time with tech folks and get this sorted. If we can't do it over the phone, happy to do that. So let's go ahead and we'll get that scheduled with you. Okay. Does that work for everyone who needs that extra support?
Yes.
Okay. I'm more than happy to do it. I don't know if I could drive like to, Pendleton. So that is going to happen. I know. I'm sorry.
And Sydney said in the chat, she can do the same thing in Salem.
Yeah. So we're here. Amy, you're a special case, and we will get you the support that you need virtually or over the phone, or maybe let's see what we can do. Okay. I don't want to make any promises, but
it's okay. I'm always a special case.
Well,
Carlos, Carlos says he's in Beaverton, and then Blue has a hand up, and then Ron.
Yeah, Portland area. I didn't say Portland, Portland area. All right.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I had to move my office. So I I am a little bit delayed in getting that set up, but it is still on my radar. And I just wanted to follow up about the burns that do not meet the chapter 944 rules. Is there somebody at OHA that could follow up on that? I've asked multiple times about that and don't really feel like I've gotten an answer.
Okay, yeah, we can have a conversation, Blue, for sure. For
Okay,
sure. I'll
thank
give
you.
you a call after this. Yep.
Ron?
No, I just wanted to be on the record of saying I really do appreciate new leadership and other people stepping up into tri-chair positions. I think that it's a great way to transition leadership and bring in new voices, and I support it. I want to thank you all who voted for new leadership, and thank you all who voted for me. And I just want you all to know that I stay committed. I remain positive, and I stay staunchly committed to ensuring full, meaningful, and timely implementation of ballot measure 110 in all arenas.
Thank you for that, Ron.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah. I do have one more update is we are going to be providing y'all with some trainings, some additional trainings. And so we're going to need to work with you all to get into our workday system. Yeah, we're gonna give you some OHA approved trainings. Yeah, so you will be getting those. We really need you to get your equipment set up. We're still working on getting other folks' equipment. We're gonna work on getting you into Workday so that you can get those trainings. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that you should be receiving some information in an email, and then we can follow up in future OHA updates. But I know everybody wants training and we are providing. So here we go. I know I see the excited looks on so many faces here. So with that, I don't have anything else at the
Real
moment.
quick, Jessica, somebody asked, do we get CUs?
I was kidding.
I know.
Oh, I was serious.
Oh no.
Some of us have certifications to maintain now.
I get it. I have like, I don't know, I'm more than 100 CEUs right about now. Just because of all, like if you speak Spanish, there are a lot of trainings available through the Juntos Podemos. So Henry, they're in Spanglish is really what they are.
Thank you. I just want to call out that Margie Stanton did remind us that these are required trainings. So, but we're going to get more information to you. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
All right. I think Henry has something before we depart.
I just want to plug that maybe. Carlos, is that the training that are we somehow providing funding for free training for CADCs in Spanish through that?
Yeah, and so for that one, there is through Juntos Podemos is CADC education in Spanish, and that's through Juntos Podemos. There's a lot. I don't know if you're receiving all of the emails. There's also the first annual Black, Indigenous, Brown conference coming up in April. There's a lot of different things that are happening. I can send all of that to you and Leticia and anybody that would like, the trainings, the
Thank you,
CEUs.
Carlos.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think we have an events page where we have that information somewhere. Jessica.
I do have one more thing that I would like to add to my OHA updates. Today is somebody's last OAC meeting. and I'm hoping that she's still here, so we can thank her for all of the guidance and support and direction she has provided to the council and the OHA staff that support the council. It is Margie Stanton's last meeting. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna be quiet.
Please don't start that, Jessica. Don't start that. Thank you though for the acknowledgement, and I want to tell you all it has been a pleasure to have been part of this work. And I had a meeting earlier today where somebody was doing some interview with me, and they said, what has been the most challenging work? And I said, measure 110. And what has been the most rewarding work? And I said, measure 110. And emphasized the challenges when you're doing something that hasn't been done before, that requires a lot more energy and a lot more resources and commitment to the cause. So I thank you all for this opportunity to have worked with you and all that we have accomplished together, although it has been rocky at times. The end results have been well worth it, and I'm encouraged by just the election that you all just had, that the commitment still exists and you all are willing to lead the way, provide all those challenges that will prop up with this work. And I just know that you can get it done if you all stay committed and, you know, work together as a team. OHA will continue to provide you support, and we have that as a commitment. So I'm wishing you all the best. I've been doing this work for OHA here for 5 years, and it is time for me to graduate. It is time for me to graduate, and I'm looking forward to you all getting to meet the new team. We have already named our OHA director, the chief of staff for OHA, and the behavioral health director. I can tell you these are good people that care about people. And so please give them an opportunity to learn more about this work and figure out, hear you on what you need from OHA in this work that you're doing. So thank you so much. And Jessica, thank you for reminding me this was going to be my last meeting. Again, appreciate you all. Appreciate everything that you're contributing to this work. Thank you.
Oh my God, let's come off mute and give Margie, man, a round of applause and some praise. Thank you for all the work and service and phone calls. I can't hear you guys.
Thank you,
mute.
Margie. Thank you for everything.
Thanks.
Thank you for your
Thank you,
support and being there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So does this mean you're leaving the health system division, or you're just not coming back to our meetings?
That means that look for me in someplace like Portugal in the next indefinitely on vacation or something. How's that? So yes, I am taking a break. Let's call it that. I'm taking a break.
Well, thank you very much for your service. I know that you and I have had many conversations, both publicly and privately. And I want to thank you for your service and your input and your advocacy and your expertise in the area that you serve. And you will definitely be missed.
Yes, you'll be leaving a void. That's well needed.
It will be filled. I promise you.
Mhm.
There's plenty of talent to go around in this industry, and OHA is definitely going to bring in some additional talent. I see
Thank you.
Blue's hand is up.
Is
I
it?
don't want to make you wait.
Oh, go ahead, Blue.
Margie, I just wanted to thank you for all of your compassion and dedication and transparency in this work. I really appreciate all of the work that you've done, and you will be missed.
Thank you. I appreciate it. These kind words. Okay, Jessica is somewhere crying. So
And enjoy it, man. Enjoy that freedom and that break, man. It's probably well deserved. Well deserved.
okay, I'm going to leave you all before you all make me cry. So
Man, I know.
take care. I appreciate you all.
All right, Jessica.
I'm out of stuff to say. You?
I'm out.
All right.
And I don't want to cry on camera. All right. See you guys next time.
See ya.
Enjoy the rest.